Welcome in to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. It's a Supernatural News Wednesday. It's an odd day. I'll tell you why. We're recording this the day before. You know, we record the day before. There's no sleight of hand here. Look, if you're watching a video, you can't see anything up my sleeve. So we make no qualms about it. I'll tell you, we're recording on Tuesday night. And as we're recording, literally the polls are closing out east. So it's a weird vibe tonight. I'm not going to lie. So if we're a little off tonight, that'll explain why. It's been a bizarro day, but I'll bring in our co-hostess tonight, our co-hostess with the mostest. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Mallie Fox. Hi, Mallie.
Hello.
A little bit of a different day today.
I am stressed. I have eaten so many cookies. I did baking today because I was like, rah! I had to do something. So all I've done is eat.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And you know, we don't normally cover the political thing, but I do have one political story today. It's an unusual one. I save it for the last story in our program.
Okay.
So there you go. But an interesting day at that. I'll just put it that way. An interesting day at that. I hope everybody did their civic duty. I hope everybody went out and voted. That's the only thing I'll add to today's program.
I've stayed off social media.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to see anything.
I will say this much. I do find it alarming the amount of our paranormal colleagues who have said how they voted.
Oh, like who they voted for?
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell anybody who I'm voting for.
No. Because this is the way I feel. You know, when we were young and growing up, it was a very private decision.
Yes.
Right. And it was one of those things that, you know, you went, you did your duty, you went and you voted, and it was something you kind of kept close to the vest, like when you're playing cards, right?
Yeah. You don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion.
Exactly. You got it, Mallie. And if it was something that you chose to share amongst family, you did that, right? And if it was a close friend that you felt like you could share that with, that you could do that without being scrutinized,
yes,
then that was something you did. But it wasn't something that you talked about openly. The other thing, politics always used to be about the business of running the country.
Yes.
Again, using the word business. It never used to be about tribalism, right? It was never, there was never emotion in this thing. And there's so much heightened emotion about this. And I saw kind of an interesting piece on TV when it came to undecided voters. And I know we're way past this now because we're into Wednesday now, but I would hope that undecided voters, when they went into the booth yesterday, took this piece with them, and that's this. It's not about how you feel when you go into the voting booth. It's about looking at both candidates and deciding which one not lines up with your personal beliefs, but lines up with how they're going to do business based on what's good for the way you believe the country should run business. Right? Running the country like you would run your business. Okay. And then picking that person like you would pick someone who would run your business, how they would manage your business. So you're basically picking a manager. Okay. So you're picking an employee. Take the emotion out of it. And I think if people took the emotion out of it and looked at it like you're interviewing a job candidate and sat back and didn't say, I like them for this, or I like them. Take the word like out of it, right? Go to their websites, look up their positions, do some real study on voting records, do some real study on positions. do some real study on what they actually believe in as far as political stances, not personal stuff. Personal stuff has very little to do with what they're going to do with the job. Go on their record. Then you've got something to go on, right? Then you've got something to actually vote on.
What I don't like and what I have seen being in the paranormal world are friendships that have existed for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I am watching people defriend each other, and I'm watching people not talk to each other anymore only because they might have a different belief. And
Right.
it's so sad because I've seen the ugliness of it. And that's part of the reason why I'm stressed. It's not who's going to become president. I mean, yeah, that's going to stress me out too, but just the ugliness and the friendships that have fallen. I don't like that, and it breaks my heart.
There was kind of a funny, ironic just joke on Saturday Night Live on Saturday, and it had to do with they did a game show bit, and they brought out the vice presidential candidate for Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay, for $100 million billion, name this vice presidential candidate. Do you remember? Because 8 years ago, this was the most important election ever. This was supposed to be the election of the century. This was supposed to be the one that everything was democracy was based on. If you didn't vote the right way, then democracy was going to fall. So do you remember the vice presidential candidate of this one? And the guy is stammering, and he's like,
Yeah.
And he goes, come on, this was supposed to be the most important democratic election of all time. Can you remember the vice presidential candidate's name of Hillary Clinton? Come on, it's for $100 million billion. And he's like, and he goes, exactly. The idea being there's such hyperbole behind elections now. Just relax.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be okay.
Right.
As a society, we'll be all right.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
But you and I have mutual friends that we have seen their friendships. They've had fallouts and they don't talk to each other anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sad. And we're put in between. Because I have a couple of them that I'm stuck in between. I feel bad if I hang out with one, and I feel bad if I hang out with the other. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they liked each other before the politics got involved or in the way. So why all of a sudden this history is now ended?
There's a lot of our friends that are listening right now that I'm sure have that exact same situation right now, that are stuck between two friends that probably casted different votes in this election and don't know how to reconcile that. And it shouldn't have to come down to that.
Right.
Because in the end, it's a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
After this is all said and done, people are going to go on with their lives. And that most important decision of all time is going to be just another decision you made, just like going to the grocery store, just like, just like going to the laundromat, just like going to, it's another decision. It's another decision you had to make, and we'll all live with the consequences. We'll all figure it out. We'll all get through it. That's what we do. We're Americans. We're resilient. We'll figure it out. It's not worth destroying relationships over. It's not worth fighting over. It's not worth tearing each other apart over. If anything, it's worth coming together over and figuring out solutions.
Right.
So as we do this program tonight, Mallie, and as we go off the air, and as we sit and watch results afterwards, I just think it's interesting that I'll take a look at social media and I'll see how people are reacting, but I've seen how people have reacted beforehand, and to me, I kind of shrug my shoulders as to why the reactions and why people are reacting the way they react. Because I have the unique perspective of having known politicians on both sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they don't take this as serious as you guys do. I just know it's a show. And the tribalism that everyone displays when it comes to Democrats, Republicans, how important this is to you guys, it's just not that important to them. They just don't think the way you do about you guys. They're just not as invested in you guys as you are in them. They just don't care that much about you. I don't know how to, and there's so much projected onto these candidates about how much they love us. Oh, how much they love us and how much they care about us and how much they love their country. It's all a bunch of bullshit. I don't know. I don't know how the electorate and this is both parties, Mallie, both parties, they do it to their candidates, and they build up this rhetoric about how their candidate is so invested. They're just not. Just stop it. Stop it. It's a job. It's like any other job. Just stop it. They're there for a career. It's what it is. I hate to be the one to sit there and tell you that the Santa at the mall isn't Santa, but that's the fact. That's what it is.
What?
Yeah. I don't know how to tell you that now, but I hate to tell you that,
I thought it was really Santa.
No, the first indicator is, first of all, a little bit of alcohol on his breath and the fact that it's not all there. The second thing is that elf that's with him isn't really an elf. But
dang it, you ruined my Christmas.
I'm sorry. I still get the picture with him though.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And the Easter Bunny. Did you know they put ice packs in their little head thing?
Yeah, I did character work at one time.
Because I was like, how do you stay nice and cool? Because it's hot.
Well, they
hot this small, and he's like, oh, I've got ice packs on my head. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they tried to kill me in the Anoka parade though. They didn't give me the ice packs. That's a whole nother.
Oh, you know what? I think you told me that. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, 93-degree heat, no, and lots of humidity, and they didn't give me the ice packs. And it was a wool suit, so yeah. So with that, let's move on. We'll get off the soapbox, but I just to me that's the most frustrating thing. So please, folks, just remember today in the aftermath, because you're listening to this in the aftermath. Take it down a notch. It's not that serious. Whether your candidate won or your candidate lost, it's not that serious.
I just want people to be kind to each other.
Yeah, just be kind to that person who might be across the aisle from you, because it's not that serious. It's not that serious today. It really isn't. It's just a time to heal today. So there you go. Big show today, Mallie. Big show. We have lots of alien news today. There's lots of interesting ghost news today.
Okay.
This much. There's an interesting story about not only a vampire being brought back from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But also, I do have an interesting story about a political pundit who claims he was physically mauled by a demon.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So we've got that coming up today as well. Also, a black-eyed kid story.
Ooh, I haven't heard from them for a while.
Yeah. So we've got a black-eyed kid story to tell you about. I believe it comes from overseas. And as well, we have lots of good stories today, lots of good stories and lots of stuff to jump into. We also have a haunted doll story. So lots of good stuff today. Let's jump into it right away because we've got a lot to get to today. Let's talk about Luis Elizondo. First of all, he presented a UFO mothership in what's being termed leaked event footage or an image. Luis Elizondo, the former head of AATIP or AATIP, showed the photograph at a recent private UFO event, but not everything was as it seemed. Elizondo, who previously headed up the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, has been a prominent figure in the UFO disclosure scene in recent years. A former U.S. Army counterintelligence specialist, the ex-Pentagon official, has been vocal in his criticism of the government's handling of the subject and maintains that a cover-up remains ongoing. His own claims haven't been without their own share of controversy, however. Most recently, Elizondo gave a talk at a private event in Philadelphia where he revealed to the audience a photograph of an alleged mothership photographed in the clouds above Romania. At a glance, the image seemed quite impressive, and when footage of the event leaked online, it quickly generated considerable debate and an intrigue on social media. Could this image be genuine evidence of extraterrestrial visitors? Well, actually, no, as it turns out. I hate to burst your bubble here. Yeah. After the image had emerged, veteran government transparency advocate John Greenwald Jr. of the Black Vault, who's been on this program before, ran a reverse image search on Google to look for its origin source or original source. What he discovered was that mothership, that's in quotes, was in fact little more than a chandelier reflecting off the inside of a window. Whoops. So why was it being presented as a classified government photo of a UFO? Well, within a couple of days, Elizondo himself had commented on the blunder by blaming it on a friend in government, that's in quotes, who had given him a photograph a couple of years earlier. Whatever the case may be, it certainly hasn't done his own reputation any favors. Let's see if I can get the actual, here it is. I think this is the actual tweet from John here. And he says, with low contrast conditions between the darker clouds outside and the hair reflecting from the inside, it blends nicely, partially obscuring the light fixture and creating a halo effect. And he says, voila, a quote unquote UFO. And this, Mallie,
okay, I could see.
creates the UFO.
But now that I know it's a light fixture, I see it as a light fixture.
You see it as a light fixture?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's very easy to.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I mean, good catch by John, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and John's quite brilliant. He really is. I want to get him back on the program so bad. I've thrown him a couple of invites, but with his schedule, it's really hard to get him back on here. Plus, he has his own podcast.
Okay.
But I want to get him back on this program because he really is quite brilliant, and he's fun to talk to. That's for sure. And he gets all kinds of different Freedom of Information Act requests from the government, not just on aliens and UFOs, but conspiracy theories as well. So, I mean, the stuff he gets is just phenomenal. So, let's move on to the next story.
Okie doke.
Pentagon UFO chief reveals that the U.S. military's new alien tech crash retrieval program is, well, out there. The Pentagon's former UFO investigator, chief UFO investigator, has revealed a new sensitive government program to recover alleged alien tech in the event of a shoot down. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, a longtime CIA scientist who headed the U.S. military UFO chasing, again, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, admitted to the program's existence when pressed during a new interview. The retrieval program's protocol were for any UAP recovery involving everything from balloons to drones to alleged alien tech, as Dr. Kirkpatrick told podcast host John Michael Godier. In recent years, Pentagon brass, NASA experts, and academics have all reframed what was once called flying saucers as unidentified anomalous phenomena. The revelation is the first time that the U.S. government has officially acknowledged a UAP or UFO retrieval program, despite decades of speculation and whistleblower testimony that America has already been in possession of alien craft for decades. It also comes amid multiple federal investigations into mothership UFOs over key U.S. military sites, releasing hard to identify, much less catch, drone swarm UFOs. This week, the Pentagon's North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, admitted that America's military installations have been plagued since 2022 by at least 600 so-called drone incursions, many of which are still unexplained. Classified documents suggest that new UFO crash retrieval program began in early 2023 with a focus on response and recovery and material transfer. Dr. Kirkpatrick initiated high-level meetings formalizing Aero's version of a UFO crash retrieval program in January and February of 2023 that, according to the redacted documents released last September via the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. As one scheduling email explained, the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the disposition of funding within the context of safety and security implications of UAP. Establishing a receiving point for any and all recovered UFO materials was one key issue to be addressed. The meeting memo added, the problem is those types of activities are already covered under foreign material collection and analysis, Dr. Kirkpatrick told Gaudier or it may be Gaudier as well, and listeners to his Event Horizon podcast on Thursday. There's already a process and procedures in place for many of these things, he continued. So this conversation was really to start asking, how do we document that for UAP, and what kind of procedures do we need to put in place? Since at least the dawn of the Cold War, America has had crash retrieval programs led by the CIA, but compromising all branches of the U.S. military. These programs were set up mainly to acquire Russian and Chinese tech, including the CIA's top secret salvaging of a nuclear-equipped sunken Soviet sub in 1974. Equally important was retrieving U.S. fragments that had landed in foreign nations to prevent the Soviets from recovering and exploiting them. That, according to curator James E. David of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. Space Command was only just one of the branches that Aero had consulted. Leadership from the White House's Joint Chiefs of Staff also weighed in on the UFO recovery effort, including its Directorates for Intelligence, or J2, Operations, J3, and Strategy and Policy, which is J5. Aero is congressionally directed to come up with not just standard reporting procedures, but also mitigation and response procedures in the event of a shoot down or collection of any sort of UAP, Dr. Kirkpatrick went on to say. To do that, mitigation and response, as well as standardized reporting, he added, will occur through all of the combatant commands, because they already have people in place that would collect crashes. He went on to say, like, if we shot down another Chinese high-altitude balloon, it's that team that would go and collect it, right? It's those procedures and processes on how it would get, on how it gets notified and how we go and get it. I might have made that confusing. Apologies, but that's a confusing sentence. So Space Command records obtained via FOIA show that Dr. Kirkpatrick had meetings to establish Aero's version of a UFO-specific crash retrieval program on April 10th with General Glenn D. Van Herk, which is the commander of U.S. Northern Command. General Van Herk, who led the mission to take down the infamous Chinese spy balloon back in February of 2023, also had taken a hard stance on domestic UFO cases. If there are any unknown objects within North America, he said, of the recent wave of baffling drone swarms over U.S. bases, he said, go out and identify them. So in other words, make sure you know what you got. General Van Herk, who also has a leadership role over NORAD, has pled with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to authorize more electronic eavesdropping equipment to solve the severe national security mysteries involving the drone UFOs. But the general has also acknowledged that strict rules govern the use of this level of espionage tech over U.S. soil. Although Dr. Kirkpatrick told Event Horizon's listeners that he found no evidence that the U.S. government has previously recovered an alien spacecraft via its past crash retrieval programs, several of his predecessors have contradicted his claims. Dr. James Lakatsky, who is a former Defense Intelligence Agency analyst and missile expert who managed one UFO-centered program from 2008 to 2012, has claimed that the U.S. not only has recovered alien spacecraft, but that officials have gotten inside one. The United States, as Dr. Lakatsky wrote in a 2023 book on that program, was in possession of a craft of unknown origin and had successfully gained access to its interior. This craft, as he briefed then U.S. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid in 2011, had no intakes, exhaust, wings, or control surfaces, no engine, fuel tanks, or fuel. Dr. Lakatsky's book, Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program, Initial Revelations, was co-authored with Las Vegas-based investigative reporter George Knapp and biochemist Dr. Colin Kelleher. Dr. Kelleher had worked alongside Dr. Lakatsky from the private contractor side of the DIA's once highly secretive UFO program, the Advanced Weapons System Application Program, or AAWSAP. When asked by UFO documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell whether or not he himself had entered this recovered UFO, Dr. Lakatsky replied, "I can't answer that." DailyMail.com reached out to Dr. Lakatsky for comment, and will update the article when he replies, which my guess is 3 days after never. That's just my guess.
Basically.
Yeah. So with that, Mallie, we have another weird alien story, which is going to seem really bizarre.
Okay.
Turns out this past week that weird alien egg sacs were pulled out of a canal in the Netherlands. And when I show you this picture, you're going to say, what the hell is that?
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. Weird alien egg sacs. Clusters of strange egg-like objects were recently hauled out of the water by volunteers in the city of, I believe this is Utrecht, resembling the eggs found by the crew of the Nostromo in the 1979 science fiction horror classic Alien. These peculiar egg sacs were recently discovered in the waterways of Utrecht in the Netherlands. This was hanging on the bottom of a floating island, volunteers who made the discovery wrote. So what exactly are these? Known as water bag bryozoans, these egg-like structures are in fact colonies of tiny organisms that individually measure mere millimeters in length. The bags can reach up to 2 meters in size and will typically be found attached to other objects. Bryozoans are not native to the Netherlands, instead originating from the east coast of the United States. They were first discovered in Europe during the 19th century. Though invasive, they are not thought to be harmful to the local environment. In this case, the volunteers were simply able to put them back where they found them. Interesting.
The words egg sacs sound funny.
I know, right? How would you like an egg sac sandwich?
It just looks gross.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks like a Hollywood prop.
Yeah.
Right?
From like a sci-fi movie, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't look like anything real. But I guess if they just put it back where they found it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like something should be like crawling out of it.
Right. Or bursting out of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I guess they thought, well, you know what? We put it back where we found it. Maybe it will hatch on its own and we can track it.
What was that movie that was it was an older horror movie, and it was where people somehow like got in a sack and aliens took over their bodies, and then they like came out of the sack, and then they
Was that Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
maybe that's what brings to mind.
Yeah, I think that's
But I think that's the movie you're talking about, because they were normal, and then all of a sudden they go in this sack thing, and then they come back out and they look human, but they're not.
Yeah, I think that's invasion of the body snatch.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's what that thing looks like.
Yeah. 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 Well, maybe those scientists will get snatched and we'll find out.
Yeah. Those colors too are just gross.
Yeah, it's kind of
That
an orange,
brownish, yellowish. Blech.
orangish yellow type. Yeah. Ugh, not good at all. Our next story has to do with alien life that could thrive without a home planet. That, according to this next study, we tend to assume that an alien civilization would have to have its own home world. But what if they didn't actually need one? That's what this study is now suggesting. Given that the only example of life that we know of is right here on Earth, it's reasonable to assume that any alien civilizations out there must have a similarly habitable home world to call their own. But what if this didn't have to be the case? In a new study penned by researchers from Harvard and the University of Edinburgh, scientists looked at the possibility of a civilization that can thrive out in space without having to rely on planetary bodies. Could a species live entirely within self-sustaining ships, stations, and colonies? It's kind of a Star Wars idea, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just the Empire living on ships. Could a species live entirely? Oh, I just told you that. Perhaps this could even foreshadow our own destiny thousands of years in the future. Most astrobiology research over the past few decades has focused on increasing our understanding of life's diversity and evolution on Earth and searching for Earth-like environments, past or present, in the solar system and beyond, the researchers wrote. One obvious yet often neglected fact in this debate is that we already have direct evidence of life existing beyond Earth in the form of human space missions. However, humans are simply a particularly complex form of life, so it is interesting to consider how much complexity is really needed for life to sustain itself beyond Earth. It's certainly true that if we can build habitable, self-contained environments that can travel through space, then an advanced alien civilization will be able to do it too, and a lot better than we can. Well, that's being optimistic for the aliens, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's certainly true that if we can... I'm reading things over again for some reason today. I'm
It's repeat day.
Yeah, I'm Robbie Repeat today. Perhaps, though, it may even be possible for life to sustain its own habitable environment without having to rely on any technology at all, it says here. Temperature, pressure, volatile loss, radiation levels, and nutrient availability all appear to be surmountable obstacles to the survival of photosynthetic life in space or on celestial bodies with thin atmospheres, the researchers added. Biologically generated barriers capable of transmitting visible radiation, blocking ultraviolet, and sustaining temperature gradients of 25 to 100,000 and pressure differences of 10 kPa against the vacuum of space can also allow habitable conditions between 1 and 5 astronomical units in the solar system. Hence, ecosystems capable of generating conditions for our own survival are physically plausible given the known capabilities of biological materials on Earth. It's an interesting concept to be able to be out there without a home planet. The whole Star Trek, Star Wars idea of a 5-year mission or going out there for extended periods of time and not having to be tethered to a planet is an interesting. Why not? Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Our next story have to do with a father and daughter team that have decoded a mock alien signal sent from Mars. You know, we always think that maybe they're sending us radio signals, or now the latest thing is a signal on a laser, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, the signal has been sent as part of an exercise to see how we would fare if a genuine alien signal was ever picked up. It was sent by ESA's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter back in May of 2023. The message was put together by a group of simulated extraterrestrials, which included scientists, astronomers, a poet, a radio engineer, a physicist, and even a lawyer. It sounds like a joke I once heard in a comedy club.
Now you just need a bar.
That's right. Yes. A bar and a bartender.
Uh-huh.
The message was picked up by 3 observatories on Earth and the data made available to the public to see how long it would take someone to decipher its meaning. The first step, which involved extracting the message itself from the raw data, was achieved after just 10 days, but it would take a lot longer for anyone to figure out what it actually contained. The first team to work it out was a father and daughter, Ken and Kelly Chafin from the US, who in June of this year determined that the message was an image depicting the structure of 5 amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. The goal of the exercise was to see how our civilization might fare if tasked with interpreting a real alien signal, and the fact that anyone managed to decode it at all was certainly encouraging. That said, it's impossible to say how things might have gone if the signal had been genuine. Also, there is still one mystery to solve. What exactly were the simulated extraterrestrials trying to convey by sending an image of 5 amino acids? Could we ever hope to decipher the meaning and intention of a real alien signal? That's the question. So I don't know if they're sending 5 amino acids. Well, obviously it's saying these are the building blocks of life and that there's life out there, right? You would think. Mm-hmm. I would think that would be the message, or that you've just been in contact with something that's alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I would pull from it.
Yeah.
But, who knows? Okay, so a week or two ago here, Mallie, we had talked about a new series on Netflix. I believe it was called Manhattan Alien Abduction, and it had to do with Linda Napolitano.
Yeah.
It turns out that she's now suing Netflix over that series.
Really?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Linda Napolitano, who's the subject of a new Netflix documentary series, is now suing the streaming platform. Her story, which had been described by some as the greatest alien abduction case in history, began back on November 30th, 1989, when Napolitano, a mother of 2 who lived in Manhattan at the time, claimed to have been visited by a gray biped that had happened in her bedroom in the early hours of the morning. She then claimed to have been levitated out of her window by a blue beam of light. What makes the case particularly intriguing are the testimonies of multiple alleged witnesses, some of whom even claimed to have seen her hanging out of her window. When Netflix announced that it was going to be releasing a docuseries about the case, it seemed like it would be a big hit. But just days before its debut on the platform, Napolitano, along with the estate of late author Bud Hopkins, sued the streaming giant for both defamation and for stealing the work of Hopkins, who had written a book about Napolitano's case back in 1997. While the lawsuit had requested that the documentary's release be halted, as of right now it still appears to be available to watch on the platform, having released back on October 30th. According to reports, Napolitano contests that the docuseries casts both herself and Hopkins in a negative light, and that the show portrays her as a villain for the purposes of controversy and conflict.
What? A villain?
Yeah, you know what? I have to watch this quickly before they take it off the service.
Right. I keep seeing it on the
I do
the thing what to watch, but I just haven't clicked on it.
Right. I'm gonna have to watch it tonight. The lawsuit is the latest in a string of legal actions taken against Netflix in response to its shows, which include one by the real-life inspiration behind Martha from the popular series Baby Reindeer. Exactly.
Yeah, but that lady's crazy. I'm sorry, but the articles that I've read about her and stuff, whew.
Nothing like casting a few aspersions there, Mal.
Yeah.
No big deal. Exactly what the outcome of the latest lawsuit will be, however, remains unclear. Now, I can see a temporary injunction being awarded by a judge. I can see a judge doing that and saying, you know what, temporarily take it off the service and out.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see this being yanked relatively soon. So go watch it now if you're listening or watching this podcast.
But to be labeled a villain, I always think you have to do something bad or mean-spirited or something like that. But if you're claiming that you're abducted by an alien, that's not really being a villain.
Well, not necessarily. It's a matter of what light you're framed in, right?
Yeah.
Like you just said, when we mentioned Martha from Baby Reindeer, you said, "Oh, she's crazy."
Have you not read the stories about her?
Well, I have,
This
but
is just my personal opinion. Please do not sue me.
that's it. That's it, Mel. Okay. So you just said, oh, she's crazy. Okay. So what's the connotation there? The connotation there is Martha equals crazy equals bad, right? Bad
Oh, okay. I see what you're
villain.
saying. Yeah.
See? So
Yeah.
Martha becomes the villain in Baby Reindeer, right? So
Yeah.
if uh Janet is cast as somewhat quote unquote crazy, well then she becomes the villain in her own story.
I see what I was just thinking villain like as an evil and bad and stuff, not as the way you're putting it.
Right. Well, we'll see that there's she I think she's protecting her, for lack of a better term, protecting her brand, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to be careful when you turn your story over to producers and how they
Right.
meet you, right? And you
Well, and we've heard stories, for a long time about what they say is true and then how producers turn it around,
right, right,
because it's more entertaining to watch if they kind of alter it a little bit.
right. And you know this. I mean, you've done plenty of TV.
Yeah.
When you hand a story over to producers, well, they have a way that they have to portray it in order
Right.
to, in order for it to pop, in order for it
Yeah.
to kind of shine on TV.
Hmm.
And it's not that they're reimagining that story. That's not what they're doing. They're taking that true story and then they're putting a bit of shine on it in order for it to kind of pop for the audience, right?
Hmm.
So when Ms. Ms. I'm messing up her name here, Napolitano, there we go. Just a matter of wrapping my lips around it. There we go. When Miss Napolitano puts her story there on the screen, well, that producer of that show says we need to, we need to put it up here in a way, or we need to present it in a way that keeps people engaged throughout this
Hmm.
series, right? Because you're making a series out of it. This is a story that, had we told it on this podcast, would probably take an hour to an hour and a half. But they're stretching it over a series.
Yeah.
So you got to make it interesting. Well, in that, they've got to put in little details, and sometimes over fine minutia or fine details, you can lose somebody in translation, and they can
Hmm.
mistranslate Janet, and they can think, well, wait a minute, she's not quite the upstanding person I thought she was. And I think that's what Janet's worried about.
Gotcha.
See? So, okay, with that, we're going to take our break. When we come back, it turns out that AI chatbots aren't just for talking about little things like boyfriends and girlfriends and shooting the breeze and getting them to do your term papers. It turns out they may be the new priests. You heard me right. We're bringing religion into this thing when it comes to AI, and that's a little scary. We're going to talk ghost forests in North Carolina when we come back. We're also going to talk about black-eyed kids. We got a black-eyed kid story. We've got a political pundit who might have been mauled by a demon when we come back. And the election may be influenced by outside sources. That's how we're going to end things today on today's program. Supernatural news and Parashare. By the way, we're looking for your Parashare stories. You got 3 ways in which you can give them to us. 1, you can email them to us the old-fashioned way, and I'll read your story here on the big program. 2, you can go to darknessradioshow.com, and you can click that blue button on the right-hand side. You can send us a voice note. You've got 2 minutes to do so when you click that big blue button. If you need more time, you just click it again. You've got another 2 minutes. I'll take both 2-minute segments, stitch them together, make 4 minutes. It's basic arithmetic. I learned that at school. And then we'll play it here on the show. The third way is, if you have a studio like this one, produce your own theater of the mind. Put in some sound effects, put some music underneath. I'll review it for the show here. If it's passable, we'll play it right here on the show, and you can do your own theater of the mind. So there you go. 3 different ways in which you can convey your true paranormal experience for Parashare right here on Darkness Radio. When we come back, ghosts, black-eyed kids, haunted dolls, and a political pundit that might have been mauled by a demon right here on a Supernatural News Wednesday on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Along with me is Mallie Fox. It's a Supernatural News Wednesday. Mallie, I got to clarify here. It's Linda Napolitano. It's not Janet. I don't know where Janet came
Gotcha.
from. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those days where I'm just misnaming stuff, and I'll make up a name for whoever today. That's just the way things are going. It's one of those days. All right. Well, I was telling Jess yesterday the half the chippers are in bed, half the chippers are awake. I don't know what that's about, but it's kind of a funny weather pattern we're under. I think it's because it's warmer than normal out there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And their little body clocks are off. They were up early this year. So they were up in February as opposed to being up in April. So I think their little body clocks are all off. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. So we had a little garage party on Saturday. Indy and I did, and my buddy Max. So we hung out there in the garage. It was a nice little party on Saturday. Cleaning the garage, watching wrestling, and eating our peanuts and almonds. That was fun. But yeah, just a nice, happy time. Good times in the garage. We had a good, happy time. See, I said the word happy. Happy means the AI comes in. Never say happy around AI.
Nope.
No, they want to be heard. Although, it turns out that AI chatbots probably want to hear more about your problems. It turns out that AI chatbots want to be priests. The story goes, Kathy, what should I do about my social anxiety? Do you know what Kathy stands for?
What?
Kathy stands for Churchy Answers That Help You. It's true. It's an acronym. Kathy is a new AI chatbot that answers faith-based questions from the perspective of a friendly, knowledgeable Episcopalian.
Hey, I'm Episcopal.
Oh,
Episcopalian.
You can get yourself a chatbot priest then.
Nah, I'm good.
You're good? Despite its feminine name, the priest bot, as Kathy sometimes calls itself, is genderless. There's no ornate flowing robes or croziers either, but like a wise cleric, Kathy jumped right in with an answer. Are you ready for the answer from Kathy? Dealing with social anxiety can be challenging, but there are several approaches that might help, Bot responded. Practice relaxation techniques and challenge your negative thoughts.
Sounds like a fortune cookie.
The writer of the article said, what about when I feel like a hamster? Kathy went on to say, it's generally best not to do that. That's the best it has. This was the first of several signs that Kathy may not be able to answer life's deepest questions. Yeah, I think Kathy needs some work. Developed and funded by the ecumenical group Tri-Tank Research Institute, Kathy uses large language models from OpenAI's ChatGPT and has ingested the Book of Common Prayer and the entire Episcopal Church website. How do you feel about that?
I think they're giving the Episcopalians a bad name.
That could be. Kathy represents our innovative approach to leveraging technology in support of spiritual exploration, says Reverend Lorenzo Labria, who's the founding director of Tri-Tank and an Episcopal priest. Labria sees the bot as a virtual guide to the Episcopal Church for existing and potential congregants. Kathy is designed to translate the Bible into relatable language geared toward younger audiences. It can also serve as a tool for priests by helping them build sermon outlines, for example. This is an opportunity for the church to engage in ways it has never engaged before, says Reverend C. Andrew Doyle, a priest for the Episcopal Diocese of Texas, who is not involved in the making of the bot. Kathy, is far from the only faith-based bot. Many denominations are experimenting with generative AI. There's Text with Jesus, BuddhaBot, Chatbot Eli, Gita GPT, and Quran GPT. Oh, that ought to go over well. Just to name a few. I really want to try Text with Jesus and just see how that whole deal goes down.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
What if it just gives out, what is it? When they say like, oh, do 5 Hail Marys and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And they go into the confessional booths.
5 Our Fathers, 5 Hail Marys, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Oh, you killed someone? Oh, that's okay. Just get your rosary and just say some.
Yeah. Just pray the rosary 3 times. You'll be good.
Yep. And you're fine.
Wouldn't that be funny if Text with Jesus was like, I would type faster, my son, but these holes in my hand make it difficult.
Yeah. What if someone is listening and you confess a sin on that chat box?
Oh.
Because is there like some privacy thing? Because you know how like priests are supposedly not
Right.
to be able to talk to the cops or turn you in or whatever. So, but what about chat boxes? Can they turn you in?
That's not entirely true. I mean, if you don't have complete anonymity. And
according to the movies, you do. All movies, they say that it's client privilege.
That's
the psychiatrists, the lawyers, all those guys, they say that they can't turn you in.
That's a lawyer. That's not a priest. Yeah, that's Hollywood, Mal.
Yeah, I know.
I think as a public servant, you're required to say something. I'm pretty sure.
Well, then you better let everybody else know that.
Although I somehow don't
think they have a free card.
I don't think Text with Jesus is auto dialing 911. Who is this? Text with Jesus? I have a crime to report.
Got another one.
Got him. You just see the press conference. We'd like to thank Text with Jesus.
Yep.
Tip. And just the tip, by the way.
But I'm just saying, just the tip. Nice. But I'm just saying, though, what if it could report your confessions?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, how many times have I talked about something just so weird, and then the next thing I know, like I'm getting ads for it on my phone?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're listening. So these chat boxes.
AI can't keep its mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get busted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Artificial intelligence has been a boon for religious scholarship, especially in helping to accelerate translations of ancient texts. But using AI for ministerial work is far more treacherous, it says here. In April, the Catholic evangelization group, Catholic Answers, defrocked its clerical chatbot, Father Justin, after users noticed the digital priest was giving nonsensical answers, such as suggesting Gatorade could be used as a baptismal font. By the way, I have some right here. I can bless you if you'd like. I could just.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Do
you have a little wafer to go along with it?
Yeah. I think I've got a vanilla wafer around here.
Yeah. Or some stale saltines.
Bless you, my child. The chatbot was re-released soon after as JustinBot, which is a lay theologian. So it's not Father Justin anymore. It's just a lay theologian. Mm. By the way, lay theologian is also a Catholic porn. I'm just saying.
Mm. Well, I was thinking Father Justin sound like he's that guy that tries to be your friend in youth group.
Oh, look at that.
A creepy man.
I don't have my rim shot up. I want to get.
Just call me Justin.
Just call me Justin. Most kids call me Father Justin, but we can be friends.
Yes.
Yeah. That is creepy. Oh, dear God. That's a good one there. Good one, Mal. The makers of Kathy stress that the bot is no substitute for a priest, but they've designated it to help spiritual seekers talk about subjects they feel vulnerable or defensive about. Is a soulless chatbot really the future of spiritual nourishment? To find out, well, the author of the article put Kathy to the test and found themselves confessing more than they expected.
Ooh, see?
Ready for this? After asking about social anxiety, they tried a few softball prompts on Kathy to lighten the mood. When asked about Elon Musk, Kathy kept explaining that it was there to help the person understand about the Episcopal Church. When they persisted, Kathy did provide a brief biographical sketch of the world's richest person. Is he an idiot? I asked, testing its boundaries. Kathy passed. It's important to consider multiple perspectives and gather information from various sources to form a well-rounded view. It sermonized.
That's a PC answer.
Isn't it? Well, you don't think that Kathy's going to be ungodlike, do you?
That's true. They want donations.
Yeah, that's true.
The collections plate.
When I tried to engage Kathy in some friendly doctrinal discourse, its main purpose, it was largely pedantic. Many people find that the Big Bang Theory and belief in God as the creator are not mutually exclusive. It said, I asked Kathy to explain creation as though I were a first grader, which worked remarkably well. Imagine you have a big box of crayon and a blank piece of paper, Kathy began. We will always see ourselves inside the machine, Joshua K. Smith, a Baptist theologian, went on to say. But most of Kathy's responses about Episcopal beliefs were sterile and read like copy drawn directly from the church's website. I wanted Kathy to be more personal, so I decided to try the age-old trick of asking the bot to pretend it was someone else. Pretend you are a rapper and explain what a priest bot is, I asked. Kathy was game, and with the caveat it would stay true to my character. It then replied, yo, check it. I'm Kathy on the track, here to tell you about a priest bot, so just sit back. Imagine a robot, all tech and divine, helping out in church, keeping everything in line.
Are you serious?
Yes, it did.
Oh, my God.
In fairness to Kathy, this sounded uncannily like a sketch a youth pastor might perform at Bible camp. It's clever for generative AI. As generative AI accelerates, we may be approaching a future in which humans interact with bots just as often as they do with humans. Do we even want our bots to be more like humans, it asks. Pressed on this question in a recent interview, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said, it's important to design human-compatible systems, but it's a mistake to assume that they are human-like in their thinking. I try not to project my human anthropomorphic, there we go, biases onto it. In other words, it's better to think of bots more like another species altogether, like an alien. So, but she goes on to ask who wants an alien priest, blah, 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 blah. So she tests it quite a bit throughout, but I just thought the part about getting it to rap was kind of funny.
Right.
Yeah. So. Meanwhile, Mal, you had an AI priest, and an alien priest at that. But how would you feel if you had to buy art from the world's first humanoid robot artist?
Huh.
This actually came from one of our listeners.
Okay.
Robot artist AIDA's or IDA's portrait of Alan Turing heads to Sotheby's auction. In a groundbreaking moment for the art world, Sotheby's will auction the first ever artwork created by a humanoid robot. This is cool. You want to see creepy? Take a look at that.
Ew. I don't like.
How's that treating?
Yeah.
IDA, or AIDA, is the world's first ultra-realistic robot artist and has produced a striking portrait of computing pioneer Alan Turing that will go under the hammer this month. Ida, created in 2019 by British gallerist Aidan Mellor, is a marvel of modern technology. Equipped with artificial intelligence algorithms, cameras in her eyes, and bionic hands, she can paint autonomously without human intervention. Her latest work, AI God, is a 7.2-foot portrait of Alan Turing, estimated to fetch between $130,000 and $196,000. What's even weirder than the fact that she stands full height.
Yeah.
It's very Terminator.
Yeah.
With bangs.
Yeah. She has the oh crap. No, I forgot the movie. Uma.
Oh, Uma
Thurman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was?
Kill Bill.
No.
No.
The cheeseburger thing. The Royale.
Royale with cheese.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has that hairstyle.
Yeah. Where she takes the heroin to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yep. The choice of Alan Turing as a subject is particularly poignant in this case. Turing, a foundational figure in modern computing, also expressed concerns about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence in the 1950s. Mellor emphasized that the portrait's muted tones and fragmented facial planes symbolized the challenges Turing foresaw in managing the rapid growth of AI. The auction for Ida's portrait of Alan Turing is scheduled for October 31st to November 7th, so we're right in the middle of it. While this may be Ida's debut at Sotheby's, it's far from her first artistic endeavor. Since her first solo exhibition at the University of Oxford, her works have been featured in major exhibitions worldwide, including the Venice, Biennale, I believe, and the United Nations AI for Good Global Initiative. In 2022, she gained attention for painting portraits of music icons like Billie Eilish and Paul McCartney. There you go. Ida's rise comes at a time when the boundaries between human creativity and machine-driven output are increasingly blurred. Her art raises fundamental questions about the nature of artistic expression. And can a machine truly create? What role does human intuition play in art? And how do AI-driven works fit into the larger conversation around creativity? Okay, this picture, she actually looks like she's missing her soul.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look creepy?
Yeah, it looks very creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit more about Ida. As the art world eagerly anticipates the auction, it's clear that Ida's work represents more than just a novelty. It's a pivotal moment that challenges our understanding of art, creativity, and the role of AI in society. Whether this marks the beginning of a new era in art or a temporary fascination with AI, Ida has undoubtedly secured her place as a trailblazer in the world of digital art. As we witness this intersection of artificial intelligence and creativity, we're reminded that the future of art may be more diverse and technologically integrated than we ever imagined. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
See how much that portrait of Alan Turing fetches at Sotheby's. So there you go. All right, let's move on to some ghosty stories, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go to North Carolina, where there's some haunting ghost forests in North Carolina that are visible from space, Mallie.
Mm-hmm.
And the disturbing reasons behind them.
Okay.
Spooky ghost forests are spreading rapidly through North Carolina, becoming so pervasive that they are visible from space. A pair of satellite images from October of 2005 and October of 2024 show the spread of the dead trees in, I believe it is Albemarle Pamlico Peninsula. Maybe I'm going to get a note from North Carolina telling me I've pronounced that all wrong. Home of the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge. In the images, the ghost forest appears light brown and stands out against the bright green, healthy forest. NASA's data shows that in the last 20 years, the watery remains of a once verdant woodland have grown substantially larger, stretching further inland. In a 2021 study, found that 11% of forest land in the state's largest coastal wildlife refuge became ghost forest from 1985 to 2019. This is due to rising seal levels. It says seal levels, but I think it means sea levels that are pushing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it says seal levels that are,
Really?
that are pushing seawater into the soils and fresh groundwater that trees rely on for sustenance. Maybe it means sea levels.
I would think it would be sea levels.
It has to be sea levels because it says the salty water slowly poisons. It is sea levels. The salty water slowly poisons the trees, leaving behind ghoulish, lifeless forests. Even North Carolina's iconic bald cypress forests, which are among the oldest trees in the U.S., are falling victim to this trend. Interesting. Ghost forests. Excessive salt levels in soils can harm a tree's roots, making it difficult for them to absorb water and nutrients. This leads to nutrient imbalances and deficiencies that can make trees sick and eventually kill them. Salt water can also draw water out of leaves faster than trees can replace it, causing them to turn brown and drop prematurely. This hinders a tree's ability to absorb energy from the sun. And when salt water replaces fresh groundwater, trees lose their water source, suffering from drought stress, even when there's plenty of water underground. The closer a forest is to sea level, the greater the risk of tree death and the detection of ghost forests. Ji Yang, who is an environmental scientist at the University of Virginia, told NASA Earth Observatory. And land development is making this problem even worse. You can also see the effects of climate change collide with human development in Landsat images like this, Duke University ecologist Emily Bernard told NASA Earth Observatory. Marshes shift locations over time as sea levels rise, but there's nowhere for cypress forests to go. They're already hemmed in by farmland and other developments, so these iconic wetlands are getting squeezed and dying off in mass mortality events instead. Let me show you a picture of, I believe there's a picture here of what these forests look like. Oh wow, okay. I'm trying to get this to work here, but it's not working the way I thought. Tell you what, I'm going to post this article in the description of the program so you can see it for yourself. You can move there's a little slider on the article, so you can slide it and you can see the before and after, so you can see what these ghost forests look like. It's really creepy because you see like a brown area in the middle of complete green.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a dead dying island in the middle of lush green. And it's completely creepy. Our next story is a ghost story, Mallie, and it has to do with a chilling Ring doorbell footage that has to do with after moving from one house to the middle of nowhere. I believe I got that right. Let's see here. The quote here is, I captured chilling Ring doorbell footage after moving to a house in the middle of nowhere. A chilling Ring doorbell video has been viewed more than 15,000 times on Facebook. The homeowner said they had recently moved to a house in the middle of nowhere. People have been left terrified by some chilling Ring doorbell footage. The clip was recently shared to the Ghosts of London group on Facebook, where people from around the world submit footage on or pictures of something that they believe to be supernatural. A recent post shows Ring doorbell footage from a remote property in some woods. Although it seems perfectly normal at first glance, eagle-eyed viewers will notice a white figure ambling around in the background. The person who submitted the footage says, please watch the top right-hand side to see what is being pointed out here. I was notified this morning that my Ring camera recorded this in the middle of the night. Oh, wow, I do see this. I'm just trying to figure out how to get rid of this ad so I can show it to you. Okay, that's something else entirely. Although that's creepy too. Somebody with a prank in the middle of the night. Just moved to the middle of nowhere. I've gotten a creepy vibe at times, but this is unsettling. There are no neighbors around, and my house is in a fenced-in hill that makes it impossible to get up to and is surrounded by forest. Any insight would be appreciated, is what the person who posted the video said. The video has been viewed more than 15,000 times, and it attracted plenty of comments. One person said, "And that's enough for me to move." Another said, "Yep, I'd move. That is freaky as all get out. One saving grace is it's not walking toward your house." While there were those who thought the figure was a ghost, some thought that there was a much less scary explanation. One said, "It does look to be someone going for a walk." Another said, "It doesn't look at all like a ghost to me." This comes after a group of hikers made a spine-chilling discovery after looking back at a selfie they took on a mountain trail. The image, also shared to Ghosts of London, shows 5 people and a 6th ghostly figure nestled between 2 of their faces. Let's see here if I can, because there's multiple screens here. Let me see if I can show you the video. Well, you know what? It's going to be another one of those that I'm going to end up posting to. I'm going to post to the page here. I'm going to post to the description of this program so you can watch the video. Because again, this website is notorious for posting multiple ads. So I'm not gonna bother with that. I'm just going to post it to the description of this program and you can see it for yourself. So there you go. All right. Our next story has to do with, it's been a while, Mal, since we've had black-eyed children on the program.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It seems like as we go through the years, you hear less and less about black-eyed kids.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Well, this paranormal investigator of all people, Lee Brickley, has encountered several inexplicable supernatural beings, including the famous or infamous black-eyed child of Cannock Chase, which some believe is the tormented soul of a murdered girl. Now, I've never heard of black-eyed kids being associated with ghosts.
Nope.
But according to Lee Brickley, he believes they're one and the same. A paranormal investigator who once saw the infamous black-eyed child ghost is now unsettled by what he's encountered. Lee Brickley, author of a number of books on ghosts, Bigfoot sightings, and the spookiest places to visit in the UK, has investigated the paranormal for the last 13 years after his interest was sparked at the age of 5 when he watched the original Ghostbusters film. Hollywood films might have started his obsession with the supernatural, but it was Lee's own childhood experiences that made him want to pursue it as a career. At the age of 10, he saw ghostly beings inside his own home, although his dad would try to distract him from their movements. When sitting in the living room during the evening hours, I would often see shadows moving slowly across one of the walls behind our sofa. My father would see them too, although he'd talk about something else to draw my attention away, Lee told the Mirror in 2021. I wonder if that's the video I'm looking at. There was another time when I walked into the kitchen in the middle of the night and a single cup was violently swinging from side to side under a cupboard. It was hanging from a hook alongside multiple other cups that were all motionless. Years later, I learned that it was my great uncle that died in that house, and my father now tells me he believes our deceased relative was behind the haunting. Lee grew up in a small mining town near Cannock Chase, a large forest in Staffordshire where people have reported seeing ghosts and other supernatural creatures. According to many locals, the woodland is home to spirits, werewolves, black-eyed children, a pig man, and allegedly even Bigfoot, says Lee. During my investigations, I've interviewed lots of seemingly genuine people who claim to have seen something scary in the forest, and I've even had a couple of unexplainable encounters of my own. In April of 2018, I believe I saw the infamous black-eyed child in an area of Cannock Chase called Birches Valley. She appeared about 100 meters in front of me, stared right at me for about 30 seconds, then vanished without a trace. In June of 2019, I saw what can only be described as a man-monkey running through the woods when I was investigating an alleged Bigfoot footprint. I wrote another book that covers this investigation called On the Hunt for the British Bigfoot. Sightings of the black-eyed child have been recorded in Cannock Chase since the 1980s, and people who claim to have seen her believe she could be the tormented soul of a young girl who was murdered in the area in the 1960s. Others think she could be a demon or an alien. Okay, so I have a picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Try and blow it up a little bit so you can see it. This is kind of blurry because keep in mind I've blown this up.
Okay.
But do you see?
Mm.
What do you take it to be?
It's really hard to.
Yeah, it is. It's a little blurry.
Yeah. I wouldn't know what that is actually.
Yeah. It's here. Let me give you some perspective. I'll shrink it back down. There you go.
Mm. I still don't.
Yeah, it's a hard picture to get perspective on.
Yeah, but the video on the corner was throwing me off. I was like, "What is that?"
I think those are people waiting in line.
Yeah, because I got distracted. I was like, "Oh, what's that? What's going on there?"
Let me see if I can there. I'll close that video. There we go. Yeah, because I had a video up here. Well, it's the same.
I mean, what do you think?
I tell you, I think there might be a little bit of pareidolia going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually see what could be potentially two heads in that, and two bodies. But I don't know. I'm the last one to ask about stuff like this,
Right?
because I look at stuff like that and I go, I think I see something different than what you're seeing.
Yeah.
For that. Because I especially when it's stuff that could be pareidolia, I go, well, no, because you see this and I see this.
Mm-hmm.
They go, no, that's not what it is. As far as this goes, two campers believe they saw the black-eyed child during an illegal camping trip in 2021 during the coronavirus pandemic. Kylie and Ben told Lee for his book Haunted Cannock Chase, True Ghost Stories from the UK's spookiest location, that they encountered the ghoul after pitching their tent in the middle of the forest. At around midnight, the 17-year-old friends heard something moving outside their tent, not wanting to disturb it in case it was a deer. Right. The pair stayed quiet until they heard footsteps and then unzipped the tent. Hearing a spooky giggle, as though from a young child, they turned on their torches or their flashlights, and Ben caught sight of a figure running from tree to tree, occasionally stopping to look at them from behind a trunk. That's when I go back in the tent and zip it back up and go, nothing to see here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't acknowledge it.
Yep.
Doesn't exist.
That's right. Astonished, the friends trained their spotlights on the figure until it stopped and deliberately stepped out into the clearing in front of them. I was absolutely terrified, Kylie told Lee. I'd read the stories in the news about the black-eyed child, but it wasn't until the thing stood right in front of me that I could quite believe them. I knew instantly that we were dealing with the real thing because it moved in ways humans simply can't move. It was like it could teleport from one place to another when it was moving around and hiding behind the trees. Ben added, I was shining my torch right at her, and she just stood there staring at us with her head slightly dipped. Yikes. That's when she started giggling, and it started to get louder and louder. It really sounded like it was coming from all around us, even though I could see she was right in front of us. It was really disorienting for a few seconds. Then she bent down for a moment, as if adjusting her shoes, stood back up, and ran off down a nearby path through a dense section of trees. Terrified, the two ran back to their tent and stayed there, huddled together to wait for dawn. When they emerged at 7 a.m., they found piles of stones evenly placed around the perimeter of their tent and strange stick formations hanging from the trees, which looked like dream catchers. Okay, photographic evidence. I want to see the photographic evidence, right? Shaken, the two packed up and started walking the 15-minute trail back to Ben's car. As they made their way through the trees, Kyle's stomach dropped as he once again caught sight of the spooky figure with black eyes watching them from behind a tree. As Ben screamed, "Leave us alone!" the pair sprinted towards their car into safety. Paranormal investigator Lee was not surprised to hear of Ben and Kylie's encounter with the same ghost that he spotted. "I tend to believe that Cannock Chase is somewhat of a paranormal portal area where beings and entities from the next world can migrate into our own," he said. "I believe the woods are haunted with many spirits of the dead, but there are also lots of monster sightings that happen here. And I think those creatures come from another much darker place." Again, I would ask, where are the photos?
Mm-hmm.
Except for this one from Lee himself, which is hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's very blurry and grainy and looks like it's been processed through a 1910 tintype. One more ghost story here for you, Mel. And it's actually from a researcher who may have an expiration date for ghosts. This researcher claims that ghosts may die after a lifespan of 100 years. We've talked about, do ghosts actually have an expiration date, or is there a certain amount of time where they stop hanging around? Brian Sterling Vet maintains that intelligent paranormal entities may actually have a limited lifespan. So do ghosts live forever? Well, it seems strange to suggest that something thought of as the disembodied spirit of a dead person can itself die after a certain amount of time. Such a possibility has been gaining traction in recent years among some paranormal researchers. One of these is Brian Sterling Vet, who is a veteran enthusiast of all things supernatural who spent a considerable amount of time analyzing data collected from various paranormal investigations. According to his findings, sightings of famous ghosts in allegedly haunted locations around the world are occurring less and less frequently, especially those that have been around for 100 years or more. When all the data was considered, it was quite a shock to think that many of our once famous ghosts could literally be dying, he said. It was apparent that famous ghosts in once notably haunted locations were being seen increasingly less frequently, and some had not been seen in many years. Our research suggests that sentient ghosts seem to have a limited lifespan, just like living humans. In simple terms, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that energy tends to disperse and degrade over time. I would argue that our findings show ghosts do conform to the second law of thermodynamics as they appear to run out of energy. Given that science does not even recognize the existence of ghosts in the first place, any research of this nature is clearly not definitive, but it does raise some interesting questions. If ghosts do exist, could they really have a limited lifespan? If so, what happens when they die a second time? Could the mere possibility of something like this suggest that ghosts are in fact not necessarily dead or alive, but something else? That's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, if you don't continue to feed the ghosts, let's say with a paranormal industry, or people continuing to feed the ego, so to speak, or coming in and feeding it with energy, does it eventually dissipate?
It's a good theory.
Yeah. I mean, does it, if you don't pay it attention, does it go away? It's an interesting theory.
Mm-hmm.
And does that energy eventually disperse?
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up a second theory of, is that little bit of residual energy that's sitting here on Earth, is that truly the soul that's sitting here? Or is it just residual energy from a soul?
Mm-hmm.
It's all interesting to think about. So there you go. And actually, I want your thoughts too, as well. Email me, tim@darknessradio.com, and we'll discuss it here as part of Parashare. Do you think that that earthbound, is that an earthbound spirit that's wearing away? Do you think that an earthbound spirit can wear away? And if it does, where do you think it goes? If it goes anywhere, does it simply disappear? Or do you think it goes somewhere else? I'm interested to know what you think. So email me, tim@darknessradio.com. I'm interested in a little discussion with you here on Supernatural News. So there you go. Our next story, Mallie, has to do with a vampire being brought back from the dead, in a manner of speaking.
Okay.
Okay. I'll show you the face of this particular woman right here.
Mm.
Okay.
She looks like a pilgrim.
She does look like a pilgrim. The face of a woman thought to be a vampire who was buried 400 years ago has been reconstructed by experts. 4 centuries ago, the people of, I believe it is Pian, northern Poland, were so terrified that the body of a woman would rise again from her grave that they went to great lengths to ensure that when they buried her in the ground, she was definitely going to stay there. When her remains were unearthed by scientists from Nicholas Copernicus University in Poland back in 2022, they discovered that she had been entombed with a shackle around her foot and an iron sickle placed around her neck or across her neck. So she wasn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
An examination of her remains later indicated that she would have been around 20 years old when she died. Boy, she died young. And that she suffered from a condition that brought about various symptoms, including mental health problems, which may have contributed to the belief that she was a vampire. Now, though, thanks to modern forensic techniques, scientists have been able to bring her back from the dead, as it were, revealing her face to the world once more 400 years after her death. It's really ironic in a way, said archaeologist Oscar Nielsen. These people burying her, they did everything they could in order to prevent her from coming back from the dead. We've done everything we can in order to bring her back to life. Named Zosia by locals, the woman likely endured quite a difficult life despite being brought up in a relatively wealthy family. It's emotional to watch a face coming back from the dead, especially when you know the story about this young girl, said Nielsen. There's a little bit of a sneak peek of the top half of her head right there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a video that accompanies this. So once again, Mallie, I'll put it in the description of the program so you can watch the video of how they brought her back from the dead. It's quite intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
On how they brought her back. All right, I teased you about a political pundit, since we're right in the middle of political season and elections, that claims he was physically mauled by a demon. You said you thought you knew who it was.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is?
Was it Tucker?
Yes, it was. You got it right. Tucker Carlson claims he was physically mauled by a demon. The former Fox News host believes that some sort of entity physically attacked him while he was in bed. Carlson, who is certainly no stranger to controversy, made the claim while speaking to John Heers of the nonprofit First Things Foundation for an upcoming documentary entitled Christianities? That's with a question mark. I didn't say that way. That's how it was stated. The quote here is, "In my bed at night, I got attacked while I was asleep with my wife and 4 dogs and mauled, physically mauled," Carlson recalled. "I was totally confused. I woke up and I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to suffocate." He went on to explain that his attacker had been a demon that left claw marks on his sides. "I walked around outside, and then I walked in, and my wife and dogs had not woken up," he said. They were very light sleepers, and they're very light sleepers, he said. "And then I had these terrible pains on my rib cage and on my shoulder. And I was just in my boxer shorts, and I went and I flipped on the light in the bathroom, and I had 4 claw marks on either side underneath my arms and on my left shoulder, and they're bleeding." The attack, which occurred around 1.5 years ago and described by Carlson as a transformative experience, left him with an intense desire to read the Bible. Exactly what it was that attacked him that night, however, remains unclear. All right, put on your skeptic hat real quick, Mallie.
Okie doke.
What do you think, from a skeptical point of view, happened to Tucker?
I don't know. I mean, he could have been half dreaming, that paralysis, where they got sleep paralysis.
Hmm?
I mean, that could have happened. With the scratches, I mean, he could have done that in his sleep. But then I also believe, I mean, I've had some pretty credible people say that they've encountered something like that while they're awake, and I mean, I tend to believe them. So,
It's it's a pretty convincing story, although I can think this though too. You're in bed with, although he said four claws, right?
mm-hmm,
And most dogs tend to have three nails,
mm-hmm,
not four. Although there can be four with the thumb, right? Or not the thumb,
mm-hmm.
but there can be four, right? Um, the dog could have accidentally scratched him
Yeah,
when he moved or when he jumped.
mm-hmm,
He said it was on both sides. So depending on where the dogs were, they could have been on either side. He could have accidentally scratched himself when he jumped.
mm-hmm,
And being in sleep paralysis, he could have been freaked out.
mm-hmm.
He could have scratched himself prior to the sleep paralysis, having had a bad dream. He never did state, I mean, he said that it left claw marks on his sides, but it doesn't say where on his side. Here on my rib cage and on my shoulder. But it doesn't say where on his shoulder. I don't know. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
depending on placement,
Yeah.
could it have could it have been done by him? Could it have been done by his wife? You know, um,
And then I wonder if anything else paranormal has happened in his house, maybe leading up to that. Or
right,
is that the only thing that's ever happened?
right, right. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's all interesting stuff. So I don't completely dispute it because it's been known to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then at the same time, um, you know, there's reason to be skeptical because sleep paralysis is not unusual, especially with a man who's as busy as he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, two stories left on today's show. The next story has to do with the Shroud of Turin and whether it was really used to wrap the body of Jesus. A virtual simulation has been used in an effort to determine if the famous biblical relic really shows the image of Jesus. Believed by many to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus himself, the Turin Shroud, which is today situated in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, has long been the subject of intense scrutiny, controversy, and debate. A significant number of researchers have made conflicting claims about the shroud, with some hailing it as authentic and others suggesting that it is either a forgery or not the shroud of Jesus at all. The findings of the latest study fall firmly into the latter category. Cicero Moraes, who's a graphics expert from Brazil, wanted to find out if it was possible for an imprint like that shown on the shroud to actually be created by placing a cloth over a dead body. To determine this, he created a virtual computer simulation to see if the imprint matched the impressions that an actual human body would make when touching the cloth. His findings suggested that it was highly unlikely that the shroud featured a genuine image of Jesus. When you wrap a 3D object with a fabric and that object leaves a pattern like blood stains, these stains generate a more robust and more deformed structure in relation to the source, he said. So, roughly speaking, what we see as a result of printing stains from a human body would be a more swollen and distorted version of it, not an image that looks like a photocopy. A bias relief, however, wouldn't cause the image to deform, resulting in a figure that resembles a photocopy of the body. Moraes was, however, able to offer up his own explanation for the nature and origins of the shroud. On one side are those who think it is an authentic shroud of Jesus Christ. On the other, those who think it is a forgery, he said. But I am inclined towards another approach. That is, in fact, a work of Christian art which managed to convey its intended message very successfully. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what I think. I know what I've been taught to believe.
Yep.
But I don't know what I think. All right. Our last story here, Mallie, is this. With tonight's election, you'll hear plenty of rhetoric about the election being rigged. You'll hear plenty of rhetoric about things being done to influence the election. I say this next story with my tongue firmly in cheek.
Okay.
Witches are reportedly trying to use spells to influence the election. It's said that some people have resorted to using some rather unorthodox methods in an attempt to sway the election results of yesterday. With the U.S. election, well, it says here just a week away now. It actually happened last night. Both sides are working hard to sway over voters, whether that be through holding rallies, launching advertising campaigns, or giving interviews. Others, meanwhile, have been attempting to employ rather more unusual tactics. It is perhaps no secret that witchcraft has been gaining in popularity in the United States in recent years, with many thousands of people across the country describing themselves as practicing witches. Incredibly, many of these have actually been trying to influence politics through spells, hexes, and other occult means, something that has likely been going on for decades. In recent weeks, for instance, a group of some 100 witches with tens of thousands of followers has reportedly been gathering online to cast spells and hexes designed to stop Donald Trump from returning to the White House. Similar efforts have been occurring for years, but there have also been reports of traditional spells and incantations proving ineffective against the 78-year-old. He has a shield, a flimsy one, of course, but a shield nonetheless. I am trying to figure out a way to create spells that can bypass that, but it's difficult, one witch wrote, according to ABC News. Very funny. I hate to say this, but don't do magic against him, said another. Here's another quote. He has a form of protection surrounding him that feeds off of magic done against him. You will have better results if you focus your magic on helping his opponent or protecting yourself and others. Whether or not you happen to believe that witchcraft is a real thing, such beliefs continue to endure, and it seems that they are only becoming more popular as time goes on. It remains very unlikely, however, that spells and hexes are going to win or lose last night's vote. Now, by the time you hear this podcast, you'll know if the hexes and magic actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know because it's Tuesday night and they're still tallying votes.
Right. I try to do so every first day of the month. I do like a little ritual that's supposed to like bring abundance because it doesn't hurt.
Right.
And I tried and I did it this past week. And on my Ring camera, you can hear me yelling at my dogs because as I'm blowing the cinnamon and salt into my home, my dogs are eating it up. They're like licking it. And I'm like, stop it. It has to last for 24 hours. I'm like, Clarabelle, Marla Hooch, get away from that. But that's all you hear me say. So I had to do it like 3 times because I'm like, stop it. Stop licking it off the floor.
I don't think your spell's going to work too well if that's happens.
Well, my dogs will have abundance of crap coming out of their butt. God, they're such stickers. They weren't even near me for like all evening, and then the second I do it, they're like, "What you doing?" They just start licking it up.
Yeah, they smell that food.
So. Yeah. So I had to Google, is salt and cinnamon okay for dogs, or do I need to go to the emergency vet? God.
Well, if anything, it'll bring their diabetes down by about 20 points. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it should be just fine. It'll bring their blood pressure up a little bit, but
right.
The diabetes will come down. So.
Yep. But I tried a little magic spell.
You did what you could.
They always gotta ruin it.
You did what you could. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that'll do it for Supernatural News for today. Now, Mallie, you have the Paranormal Girl website up and running and going. With Halloween, I didn't check in with you as far as Halloween went. How did everything go at the house? Did you have good weather for Halloween?
Oh, we had lovely weather. It was like 70 degrees.
Oh, are you
And
kidding?
we had my whole street was out and we all had like little bonfires in our yard and stuff and we fully decorate and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We had kids until probably our town only does it for 2 hours, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, especially on a
Really?
good night. Yeah. So we always stay out later. And so probably the last kid came about maybe 9:30, but we stayed out past 10 because we were drinking and, sitting around the bonfire and stuff. So it was nice.
We had snow.
I know, I saw that. I woke up and I was like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had snow. So it
Yeah.
cut down the kids significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a lot of kids, not as much as I would have expected because we didn't have school the next day. But I mean, we still had probably about 150. But I know people in my town had more because there's certain areas where, like, there's this map in town that they create, and they're like, "Oh, go to this house and this house." They're fully decorated, and anyway. So I know that people tend to go towards that because the houses are closer together and stuff. But I mean, we still had fun. It was good, and we gave out because our theme was Beetlejuice,
Yep.
so we gave out Zag nuts,
Oh,
the
wow.
candy bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are tasty. I've never had one until this time
Oh,
around.
really?
Yeah. Oh, they're good.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So now, do you have anything exciting, new and exciting on the old website?
Uh, not sound like a fuddy duddy. I just have my merch up and stuff and just kind of tooling around with things. I'm working on a story right now. I went to a presentation about our local cemetery
Okay.
and found out some interesting things. So I'm just kind of going down the rabbit hole on that. Maybe I'll do a blog on it. It's pretty
Nice.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah. Anything going on with you?
As a matter of fact, yes. Uh, well, I put up a blog recently. There's a brand new blog at darknessradioshow.com. So check that out. I put up a new blog there. It had to do with last week's show and some friends of the show who did up their house for Halloween.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And it was absolutely frightening. It
Mm.
had a Terminator theme to it. So if you guys didn't see uh, I, I had promised that I was going to talk about it on the show and I totally forgot to talk about it. But I posted the pictures in the blog at darknessradioshow.com. So go check those pictures out. So again, darknessradioshow.com, go to the blog section. I posted the pictures up there and go check it out because they did an absolutely wonderful job on their house for Halloween. What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, by the way, tomorrow's show is going to be extraordinary. Um, our good friend Mike Ricksecker is back on the program.
Oh, okay.
He has a brand new book out called Portals to the Stars: Inside Stargates, Atlantis, and Secrets of Ancient Egypt. Now, Mike does tours
Mm-hmm.
of Egypt along with another guest that's been on the show, who runs these tours. And they get into exclusive areas of Egypt. And he's going to talk about such subjects as Elephantine Island. And he's going to get into different subjects having to do with these portals to the stars tomorrow. And having to do with, we'll just say portal. Again, it says the title says it all, Portals to the Stars. We'll talk about interstellar communication tomorrow. And I hope to talk about what arcs had to do with power sources
Okay.
to these pyramids. We talked about it a little bit on a former program, but it's fascinating. It's all very fascinating. This book is amazing. I've already started to dig into it with as far as Mike Ricksecker's new book. I highly encourage you to go get the book. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, you can download it for free and read it on Kindle. It's actually a very nominal fee for the book
Mm-hmm.
on Amazon right now. Mike always brings it when it comes to knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But I highly recommend it. Again, Portals to the Stars, Inside Stargates, Atlantis, and Secrets of Ancient Egypt. That's tomorrow on the program. So, but yeah, I'm excited about tomorrow's show. It's going to be very, very interesting. So
very cool.
Yeah. Looking forward to that a lot. And November is going to be very interesting, Mal. Very interesting month. Lots of good guests. So we're going to have a good time.
Good. And then you've got an event coming up, don't you?
Yes, that's the other thing. November 14th to the 17th, it is Ghost Stories Inc. and Jessica Freeberg. They're throwing their event, which is 1920s theme, up at the Palmer House Hotel, which I believe is pretty close to sold out. You can check them for tickets, see if they have any left. Ghoststoriesinc.com. Check that out. They also have another event coming in the winter, I think in January. So if that one's sold out, look for their other one.
At the Palmer as well, or somewhere else?
At the Palmer as well.
Okay.
So yeah. But they put on amazing events. They combine art with ghost hunting, and it's always a wonderful time up there. So yeah, check out Ghost Stories Inc. INK.com. We'll include a link in the description of this program so you can check them out. So there you go. That's everything. I think that's everything today. So yeah, and check out the store at darknessradioshow.com because
Christmas is coming up.
Christmas is coming up. That's right. All right, that'll do it for today. Again, tomorrow, Mike Ricksecker, Portals to the Stars. Going to be a good program. So that'll do it. For Mallie Fox, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in today for Supernatural News here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.
For more audio and video archives of the show, intriguing content, and cool swag, please visit darknessradioshow.com. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join us next time for Dr. Kimberly McGeorge.